everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Reaction Therapy Podcast. I am Tom Stevens, your resident psychotherapist, and I am super pumped today. I've been waiting for this day for a long time because we get to deep dive in. We've done that once before with Juice WRLD, but we get to deep dive into an artist, who they are, what their material is, what we think about them, and this, one of my all-time favorites. Here's Nick Stevens, and today we are covering who?
NF. I'm so excited. NF,
otherwise known as
Nate Firestein, I think is how you say his last name, but NF, the rapper that we've... That was intense. Man, sorry for headphone users there.
Sorry,
that's a little loud, but your thing went red.
Beep. It was beeping red as I scream whenever I scream.
Anyway, but yeah, today is going to be
I'm ready for
NF
this
day. I'm so excited because NF is probably my all-time favorite artist, just because of the material he has, the fact that he doesn't curse in his music. He talks about real stuff. Not saying other people don't, but I just love NF. I was not raised on NF, but I've definitely I think the first NF song I ever heard was I'll Keep On, and I think I heard it in like 7th grade, which was how many years ago? Like 10.
I flash back to knowing how he liked this guy and was not anything like he is now, right? So that would have been 2013-ish.
Yeah.
So for you, 12 or 13. So that's impressive. Like that was way back in the day. And I remember going to that first concert that I had no idea who this guy was. I was just going to support Nick, and I had to go because he was like, what were you, like 14?
Yeah, something like that. I was pretty young. It was
2015 or so?
It was right when, I remember it was right when No Name came out, which I think might have been 20.
It was the Real tour, remember? Because you had a hat that said Real on it. We got you.
Yeah, no, it was the...
Wasn't it?
It was a mansion tour.
Was it? But why were the hats all saying Real?
Well, that's the slogan, but...
Oh, okay. That's his slogan.
Real was on Mansion. So, but Mansion, because it was the Outcast with the what was it called? The cage? The cage.
Others being outcast.
Well, it was the cage on stage. He had the cage on
Yes, he had the cage on stage. I do remember that too.
Yeah, it was that. But Mansion is one of his first albums. So
that was in a fairly small arena.
Very small.
That
am I right on that? I want to make sure I'm right on that.
That was in a fairly small arena that had a pit at the bottom in the middle, and then had a little bit of seating on the sides. And then this last year when we went to see him...
No, I'm incorrect about that. Go ahead.
It was at the Woodlands Pavilion here up near Houston. And that has a huge lawn area and probably seats. I don't know. I would feel like that would be more like 15,000 people.
Yeah.
But that was quite an upgrade for him.
Incorrect. Sorry about that. It was not the Mansion album. It was the Perception album, because that had Outkast. That also had... I'm not sure which album Real was on, but I know it was a Perception album tour or whatever, because of the Outcast with the cage and everything. So I know that for a fact. But anyway, it was a while ago though. That was a long time ago. We've been to one, like you said, since then, which was for his new mixtape. So that's pretty fire.
And I think anytime we get to talk about NF is a fun time, because I like taking a little bit of time and just talking about different artists. If you're a fan of NF, this is going to be great. If you're not a fan of NF, you could learn some more about NF.
Learn some more.
When is the 21 Pilots deep dive?
That's probably the next one. To be honest.
Like, can I delay that one?
No, like it's fine.
Nick's had a little bit of an issue lately because my wife Jill has really
a little.
What?
I mean, now since we all went to the 21 Pilots concert, my mom plays 21 Pilots all the time, and like I thought Tom played it a lot, but my mom plays it all the time too now.
Yes,
I love 21 Pilots, but playing it for like 3 hours around the house, it's a little intense for me. So especially when the songs repeat and I hear the same thing. Anyway, that's not the point of this.
Right?
I have to.
Let's sing all NF today.
But before we do that, I want to ask you first how you're doing today.
I'm doing really good today. I've been stressed because of this. Reaction therapy, it's a lot of work. We've talked about how much work goes into it, and
it is, especially recording, especially if you miss a day of recording.
And the truth of the matter is, with the job I have as a therapist, the most difficult thing of me doing this is I can have a really rough day at work with cases that, I mean, it's not even always me doing good or bad at my job. It's people having life situations that are horrific or tragic or hard to get through. And so I can come home really drained and I can be like, this is not a day I'm ready to do this. Or like what happened Sunday, it could be a day where it's family day kind of for us. And I get some scheduled recording in on Sunday and I just decide, I don't want to do it. There's other things going on and I just would rather not. So since I have a job and every day, it really does tighten in our schedule. And so I feel really good now because I have one more reaction to do today. We've recorded just some insight for people on our podcast. We're recording 2 podcasts in one day today.
There's a second one.
Which is about an hour and a half of recording time for the podcast. Then we edit it down and, the planning and prep of what we're talking about, like Nick's done with this one.
Yeah.
And then I've done, by the end, 7 reactions today. And reactions, I've told people, are about 30 minutes a piece by the time I sit down and do the reaction and finish it because I do extra long reactions. So it's a full day. Oh, and then we have a live stream tonight on Tuesday.
That's true.
When we're recording this. So our recording days a lot are Tuesday and a lot on Thursday as well. And so I feel really good now because I feel like I've gotten over the hump of a lot of work. But I love this. If I didn't have everything else, I would be in a dreamland. But I'm kind of glad I have everything else because my job helps me here.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, he couldn't talk about me. He couldn't talk about all the therapy if he wasn't a therapist. So
that is the truth. When I used to go around and I would speak to large groups of people about raising children and parenting and teachers working with children, whenever I did that, I always felt like I had an extra kind of trick up my sleeve because I worked in the mental health field with children every single day. Like a lot of people are professional speakers that don't do that every day. Or people could be talking about this music like me, but they're not therapists. They don't have a mental health background. So I feel great having my job.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, cool. We also need to mention that we have
How are you? You didn't even stop to say that.
I'm in grind mode. Tuesday for me, like
You've got a lot happening. I've seen you going all over the place today.
Grind mode, and that's what I call Tuesdays. It's like whenever Tuesday comes around, I love Tuesdays because I feel the most productive on Tuesdays because I do so much. But Tuesday is kind of our grind day for both of us, where we just pump out the content and we get to see it come to fruition during the week because as the stuff comes out, we're like, we did that.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Plus, Nick has he goes works out.
Yes.
He's got to go drop off merch to be done, pick up merch that needs to be sent.
Like every Tuesday.
Tuesday's a big day with that. He's got to sit down and do editing of all the reactions that I'm doing today, which are 7 reactions. So that has to get started. Then he's got to prep these podcasts, get ready for the live stream tonight. And on top of that, about to get brand new camera for us to record with.
Setting up.
Which is also a tension because you have to learn all about how to do it.
About cameras, so.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really cool to get a new camera. Like I love our camera that can like put it on me or put it on Nick or put it on both of us like that. But I also love the idea of just a new stable camera that has better quality and is easier to work with.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nick, for doing that.
Yes. Before we get going into NF, I do want to mention that we have some very cool artist interviews coming out very soon.
Yes.
So this podcast will be coming out pretty soon after we record this, and then for the next couple of weeks to a month, we're gonna have a couple of really cool artists interviews. One that we just recorded before this, and then one that we'll record next week, coming out in the next few weeks. So that'd be really fun. I'm not gonna tell you who it is.
Yeah. And more to come.
Cool.
We're going to just keep interviewing artists. And I kind of like interviewing all different kinds of artists because it lets us get a glimpse into people who are basically artists, influencers.
Yeah, the influencer thing.
It's kind of fun.
It is fun. It's
I like it.
We love doing these kind of deep dives too and topics as well, but interviewing artists is really cool because we get that, interaction with other people too. All right. Without further ado, let's get into the topic of today, which is NF. We're going on a deep dive wow. Can I speak? A deep dive to NF, which I'm gonna mention is kind of his early upbringing. Okay, that was funny. For y'all Spotify or Apple Podcast listeners, y'all didn't see that, but it was pretty funny. We have his early childhood, and then we're gonna go through his career, kind of what he's done, and then we'll get to talk about him. So
you're the expert. I know you know more NF than pretty much anybody. I don't.
Yeah, I do. I do know a pretty good amount of NF. I've listened to, I wouldn't say every single song that he's made, because he's had a couple from his like Moment album and his first EP that I'll mention in a few minutes here. I haven't listened to every single one of those probably, but I've listened to probably 95% of his music. So I'm pretty well versed in him. So for y'all who don't know who NF is at all, which I don't know how you don't, but if you don't, NF was born in 1991 in Gladwin, Michigan. So he is now 31 years old. His parents divorced when he was really young. It's sad. He has two sisters that lived together with their mom because they got divorced, and his mom struggled with opioids and different drugs. Mom had several boyfriends. One of her boyfriends abused NF and his sisters, and basically the father's like, "Hey, gotta take him out." Court made the father take him, and then later on, you saw, and if you've watched the "How Could You Leave Us" music video, which is a tough one, which I'll mention a little later too. There was that social worker who was sitting in the corner of the room that had to watch basically whenever NF was with his mom. So pretty rough upbringing. Yeah, pretty rough upbringing for NF. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say about that. And then in 2009, NF's mother.
Actually 2009.
2009, yeah. I don't know why I should write it like that. But in 2009, NF's mother passed away from a drug overdose. And then that's when How Could You Leave Us, the song, one of NF's most famous songs, came out. And it was a huge song for NF, emotionally for him, but also just for everybody. And
wait, that was when that song came out?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was in 2009, but
was it on a certain album?
It was on,
I wonder what that
Therapy Session.
Okay.
And I think Therapy Session came out in 2016, I think.
So was it released as a single way back?
No, that was on the album, I'm pretty sure. I'm not positive about that, but I think it was. I'll look it up. I'm not sure, but I know that it was released after that, obviously. But I think it was on his Therapy Session album, which is his technically, because NF had an EP which was called NF. That's his first like major
go back and listen to
record
that.
with just his name, because before he had his Moment album, which was actually Nathan Firestein, his name.
Firestein, I thought it was.
I don't know if it's Firestein. I don't know what it is. And then he had his NF EP, which I think was in 2014. I mean, I'm going to look it up. Go ahead and talk for a second, because I want to look this up and get this right.
So I know very little about the actual history of him. I know enough about him as a, an advocate for being honest and open and real. He's married today, has a child, I believe. Has not put out music in forever, which I'm a little frustrated about, but I'm going to understand it. It's just a greedy me that wants more NF music. But it's been a long time since he's put out music. I want to say since COVID started, and 2020 was maybe when he put that mixtape out, which was
2021.
It was 21? Okay. Yeah. So it was a year and a half ago. So it's been a year and a half since he's done any releasing of music. So I know he's got to have music, but maybe he's producing it, and timing is a big deal.
Yeah. So March 26th of 2021 is when he put out his latest mixtape. So it is about a year and a half ago now. Hopefully it's coming soon. But I just looked up that in 2014 was when his first EP, titled NF on it. It has songs like All I Have and Wake Up, which I think you've reacted to a couple. I think those two you've reacted to.
Wake up.
Yeah. Wake All up. I Have is one of the two that you've reacted to. That was on his original EP. on the album. And then in
Love that one.
2015, Mansion was released, which was a big hit with Mansion, obviously the biggest song on that one. He put All I Have, and he put Wake Up on that album too. Notepad is a big one on that one.
Notepad.
I'll Keep On, you haven't reacted to yet. Paralyzed is one that
Paralyzed
you've reacted to. Motivated, I think you might have done, maybe. Wait. So those are some of the ones on there. Therapy Session was 2016. That's when How Could You Leave Us was released. It was released in 2016. So about 7 years after his mother passed away is when that one came out. Therapy Session, obviously on Therapy Session, it would make sense. Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong one. Mansion. Oh, I already went to that. Therapy Session. That's when How Could You Leave Us was released. Track number 4. That's a really sad one. But yeah, Therapy Session, How Could You Leave Us? Real, one of my favorite NF songs. Oh Lord is on that one.
Oh Lord.
Grindin' with Marty. And then Statement, All I Do. So some good ones on there.
Really good ones.
And then Perception, which is the tour that we went on in 2017, he released. And then 2019, he skipped a year after that. So he had 3 straight years, 4 straight if you count his NFEP. And then he did that in 2014, Mansion 2015, Therapy Session in 2016, and then Perception in 2017. So every year.
Yeah, he was going.
Then he skipped a year and then released The Search in 2019, which I think is his best album. If I had to pick, I mean, if you just look at the songs on there, there's so many good ones.
That's probably the best album
I
ever
would say it's the best one. Yeah. And then 2021 is his mixtape, which is Clouds, which is
great, but like it said, being a mixtape, it's kind of, I feel like the other ones are more stories. I feel like the mixtape is like a collection of artwork.
Yeah, I feel like a mixtape
very over the place.
I feel like normally with a mixtape, it's more of like songs that don't really fit on an album. They're just kind of songs he's made that he wants to give people. And he even said like he's just it's to hold everybody down until he can release an actual album. But hopefully pretty soon he'll come out with it. I know he's posted a lot on his Twitter, or at least once on his Twitter, that he said he doesn't like that the album's taking so long, but he's just, his perfectionistic side is getting in the way. So hopefully soon that'll come out. But anyway, I just wanted to give you all kind of that. But he did that.
So which was better, the mixtape or The Search?
Well, I think The Search is better overall. It just has more, like, I love the songs on, I love the new kind of like production he's going with on. I feel like he's evolving more. You can see his, like, I feel like if The Search and the mixtape is what his next album is, like, together, if they're both, I think that's going to be really fire. But anyway, I just want to go through his career. He's got
a great team, man.
They're a great team. So starting in his career, 2010 was the first time he ever released music. It was his Moment album, released independently. Tommy Profit is his guy that he met a while ago. That's his, to this day, it's still his producer who makes all of the crazy beats with and the choirs.
He wasn't there for Moments, right?
He's so good. I don't believe so.
Well, NF said Moments wasn't good, didn't he? Or was he just joking about that? It says
he worked with local producer Tommy Profit. They recorded Wake Up, Beautiful Addiction, which is not a song we've done, in 2013, so no. Then he signed with Capitol, which is a Christian
Capitol
label,
came in the picture. Remember
2014. That song? And then he hit some pretty big milestones. So he started to receive a lot of buzz then. And then he released his first studio album, which was Mansion, through Capitol. And then it reached number 62 on the Billboard 200. So crazy. I'm just trying to read
so
y'all.
Much history.
But then the big thing is when he obviously has also recorded with guys like Futuristic, Toby Mac, Flame. But the biggest thing was when he decided to release in 2016, like Real was a big one. It has over 18 million views on YouTube. Therapy Session is really big as well.
Yeah.
And then Perception, really with the biggest thing of NF's career so far has been when he released his Perception album with Let You Down, which went 3 times platinum, which is now, I think it's 6 times platinum at this point. But Let You Down is biggest single, or not single, but biggest song ever. And he's just kind of taken off from there. And he went from not even being on the Billboard 200. Where was it? I read this earlier. No, on the Hot 100. So it says he had never had a single on the Hot 100 list, and all of a sudden he had his his album Perception hit number 1. So he went from not ever having anything on there to all of a sudden his album being on number 1. So,
Which, by the way, he said was when he was at his lowest point mentally.
yeah. Anyway, you like to go to that, but and then he did get married in 2018. He just had a child. His child is. I follow both him and his wife on Instagram, so I get to see his wife with his child too. It's pretty cute, but. Anyway, just wanted to go through that. And that's kind of his whole discography.
What's your guess, Nick, on when his next song or album's going to be released?
I would guess sometime in 2023, maybe summer.
Seriously?
It would be awesome for him to
release it. He's going to go 2.5 years without releasing anything.
Well, 2021. So I'm thinking probably maybe around the 2-year mark. I just don't see it happening this year. I hope it does. It'd be great if it did, but that's my kind of guess. Yeah. It's kind of around 2020, 2023, around when it happened in 2021. But that's my opinion, but that's kind of his background. So let's go kind of more into the mental health stuff now, because I just kind of gave you all everything he's done. But yeah, that's your turn.
Mental health?
Yeah, let's go. Mental health. What do you think of NF from a mental health standpoint?
He's great from a mental health standpoint. I mean, he's very honest about his life, where he's been. He's got firsthand experience. He's not just a guy rapping about something he hasn't been through. He also doesn't glorify the negative. He doesn't glorify the life of drugs and addiction and, women. And he really doesn't do any of that. He doesn't curse in the songs that he makes. And he talks about, I have to get this stuff out so that it's a therapy for me, so that I can feel better about myself and so that I can relate to people, because my pain is what people relate to, which helps them feel better because they can relate to my music. A lot of people have put him down because they've called him kind of the one-trick pony, so to speak, of doing the same thing and all the same depressing and miserable stuff, which is really not true at all when you listen to it, because it's a story about people going through misery. I think it's interesting how you take rappers. You could take Juice WRLD, you could take Lil Peep, you could take, any rapper really, and why aren't they talked about as continuing to do the same thing and glorify the same old story? They're kind of propped up. NF, I think it's because he's real about what he says, and he's getting better. Like over time, he's gotten better. He's gotten healthier over time through his music. You can read it in his music. He talks about how honestly life is a struggle sometimes, but he also talks about how to overcome those struggles and how to live a better life. And I think he lives a better life outside of it too. So I don't think music is as important from that perspective anymore, because he has a healthier life, which, by the way, is what you're supposed to do. Healthy relationship, family, not have it be, I'm sitting here depressed every single day, churning out this miserable music. I don't think his music's miserable. I think it speaks to a lot of people.
Facts. It definitely speaks to a lot of people. I think kind of the biggest thing with NF is that he does get that negative attention, I guess you would say, from people who just say his music is dark. Like he even said in one of the songs, all your music is moody and dark. Like people say that, and he's just like, don't get me started. Like it's definitely not. Like people see it as that, but he honestly.
But what do you want? You want him to pretend life's happy and wonderful? And everything? I mean, the guy's been through foster care, and he's been abused, and his mom was on drugs and ended up dying from it. Like, so what is he supposed to sing about how happy everything is? It's not happy.
But I will say, I think to him, he's just being real, and that's his whole slogan. That's been his whole thing. Is he's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's not going to be like, oh, everything's fine.
Right.
He's going to tell it like it is, and I think that's why his fans love him, and I think that's why his haters don't like him, because it's like, man, it's almost like you don't like people who are always right. Like you always seem like they're right, and you're like, oh, I just hate that person because they're always right. Like I can never get them. I feel like people with NF, it's like Like you can't knock somebody for being real, and everybody tries to find a way to like, oh, you're not good at this, you're not good at that. And it's like, bro, I'm just being me, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Doesn't get his self-esteem from those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he definitely has some issues with like perfectionism and trying to make sure everything's perfect. That's the same thing, but he definitely has that kind of issue going.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Like with how part of the reason he hasn't released an album in so long is because he's trying, like all of the negative thoughts and like the perfectionist side of him is kind of keeping him from being okay to release something. What do you think about that?
That's the part that can be a challenge because it's never going to be perfect enough. Whenever you deal with OCD, addiction, any kind of compulsive issue, you're never going to be satisfied, or you're never going to look good enough, or you're never going to be finished and completed. So he's got to be able to draw a line at some point and say, I just need to put this out and go with it and be okay with whatever it is. Otherwise, you can stay stuck, and that's where anxiety kicks in because he doesn't like the product he's putting out. But you have to have good boundaries around it. I'm hoping part of his boundaries on not putting stuff out is that he's got a family. Yeah. And he enjoys his life. I mean, I want him to have a happy life, not just to sit here and produce music for me. Yeah. I'd rather him be happy and he could retire and never produce music again, honestly, if that's what makes him happy. But you've got to remember that getting better is the goal. Staying miserable is not the goal. Okay, same as Suicide Boys, right? They talk about mental health now. They didn't talk about it 5 years ago. Yeah. So the point is getting better. 21 Pilots, they talk about getting better. NF talks about getting better, not staying miserable. He doesn't want people to be depressed all the time. He wants to relate to people, but he also wants to let them see, I had to get help for myself. Yeah. Going to therapy. What was that in? That song where he went to see a therapist. Had to see a therapist, and I found out something funny's going on up at my house. Hey, Nate. How's life?
It's Nate. No, it was a Search.
The Search. Well, probably the best song he's made. That song's crazy.
Search is good. Search is very good.
Crazy.
Yeah. I just think it's incredible, like from what he was like, and I think this is true with everything, especially like with even what we've done with reaction therapy. Like you look at the beginning stuff and how bad it was, and then what he's turned to now is just like he just continues to get better and better, and I think that's really impressive. And he's dealt with a lot, and I'm proud of him for being the guy he is today. Like he has a family, he has a wife and a baby now, and it's like he wants to be the example that his mom and dad weren't.
Ooh, no kidding.
And it's so cool to see that how he is really trying to support, and make a family. Because one cool thing is how what happened to NF's mom is kind of what happened to NF's wife's dad. Like they had each of their, I'm not sure exact, but I've seen on Instagram that NF's wife, her dad dealt with a lot of the same things that NF's mom dealt with. So they kind of bonded in that way. Also, did you know that NF met his wife at a concert?
Oh, really?
NF's wife was at a concert when they were a lot younger, and they ended up meeting each other, and now they're married. That's a cool fact. But
what concert?
I don't remember. It was a while ago. Like I
did hear that NF went to a 21 Pilots concert, though.
Yeah, I saw that with his wife. Yeah.
About that. He knows what's up.
He does know what's up. Any other final kind of thoughts before we have a Q&A session?
I am ready for Q&A session.
So that was kind of NF deep dive. We kind of went through his whole life, and
we could sit here and talk about favorite songs, and
we'll get to that. Hey, if y'all want to hear some of that, maybe go on to the extra bonus episode, which is available to YouTube members, Patreon people as well, because we'll be doing a fun little game on there. So be ready for that. If you want to see kind of more of that, just go on over there.
I think it's funny, though. It was interesting to me that you had us, the very first reaction we did of NF was
Just Like You.
Just Like You. I thought, of all the songs, what's the reason we did that one? Like, because it seemed like he had a ton of popular songs, but you knew the reason you wanted to do it.
Well, one, it just came out. It was
pretty, really? It had just come out?
Not just come out. It was on his last kind of
wasn't on the mixtape, right?
It was.
It was? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and I just thought it related to the most people. Like that song has a lot of
There you go. And it did.
it was rival. So, yeah. Okay, let's go into Q&A. Here is the transition, the wonderful transition. All right. I have a couple questions here from people. First one, what NF lyrics have you related to the most?
Well, this Q&A should be both of us, I'm assuming.
Okay, we can do
right?
both.
We should both do that. NF lyrics that I've related to the most. Man.
I got mine.
I've switched around a lot on things that he said, but I think, the song that I relate to when it comes to speaking it is that...
no names to you.
I know. I'm trying to remember. It probably is The Search. The Search is just great all around in terms of the struggle through life and conquering demons. But I do like Nate. I like where he talks to his younger self and who he's going to be and when he's going to put out this album. None of that will make you happy, and you'll just keep trying to reach goals but never lead to freedom. And I probably Nate is my most impactful because I go back and I think about myself in life when I was younger and what I would say to my younger self to know that this is going to be hard. Nothing's going to be easy here, but I can't feel sorry for you, or I'll have to feel bad for me too.
Yeah.
Like that.
There's a lot of good lyrics in that.
Nate's probably hits all of that when you're talking to your younger self and saying, I'm just going to give you straight talk about here's what's coming. It's going to be great, but you're going to go through heck to get there. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, my favorite, and I've said it multiple times, is "If God ain't real, real isn't." That's real.
That's your favorite.
That's my
lyric,
favorite line
for sure.
But also, I think "Remember This" is a powerful song.
Yeah,
it has bar after bar. Every single line in that song is a bar. Like you don't need alcohol to make you happy, and not just that, but they're just so. That's the first one that came to my head. But there's so many in that song of like, just be you. Like don't let
true.
Don't let your parents tell you how to live. It's just there's a lot of different. It can hit a lot of different people, and I'm not saying any of them like hit me personally, but it can hit a lot of different people. The other line that I really love, which is in "Prideful," which I'm not a massive fan of even the song, but in the song it says, "Don't tell me to swim in." What is it? It's don't
that you
stop
won't
telling
dip
me
your
to,
feet into, or whatever.
yeah, don't tell me to dive in water you won't dip your feet in. That's what it is. Don't tell me to dive in water you won't dip your feet in. Like that one's like, don't tell me to do this, you won't even do like part of it. Like don't tell me to do that. And it's prideful, and so that's kind of what that song
prideful.
Like a lot of people are prideful, and like anyway, but there's a lot, but those are kind of some of mine. So yeah,
I'm pretty strongly. There's all of these songs. They all speak.
Next question is
all therapy.
Pretty similar, but what's your favorite song by NF? You've already said it kind of, but
I've bounced around honestly on different things.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be that one where it was that couple and they were going backwards.
Time. Yeah.
Time. Then it's been Layers, which was crazy to me because I love the way he switches things around musically.
Yeah.
I really like that song.
Yeah.
Not as much the lyrics of that, but the way he was adaptable to music.
Yeah.
And I think The Search obviously is crazy good. But again, when I look at Nate and I look at The Search, those two are probably my favorite. But I tell you could play it right now and I'd probably be like, oh yeah, that song's really good.
I just thought of one off the top of my head. It's Why is so good too.
Yeah.
Like Why is a song that I haven't listened to that song in so long. No Excuses. You got Options. Like there's so many different ones. My favorite song is Real still with that line in it.
Remember This. Huh?
Remember This is up there. And then also I would say, what's the song? It's Real, Remember This. There's one other song I'm thinking of that I just lost it. I can't remember.
What did you think about Let You Down, knowing it was popular music and so popular, but wasn't?
Yeah.
It didn't sound classically NF to me.
Yeah, it had a little bit more of like a radio feel, and that's what it ended up being.
It was more pop music.
But it's still, I mean, I still think it does have a lot of lyrics in it about, it's still to this day, I don't think people are totally sure who it's meant for, It could be his father, like it looks like a father figure
That's what it was
there.
in the video, yeah.
And it's just, you never know like what exactly it was, but it was a good song.
Yeah.
What is that song? I'm trying to think of the song that I also really like. I just can't remember.
I'd have to have the list. Yeah.
Real, Remember This, or definitely up there for me. But
Nick gets a little stuck sometimes on I need to remember.
Well, I wanted to remember because I had it in my head a second ago, and then I just kind of forgot it. But and then this new stuff, like That's a Joke. It's just there's so many.
Yeah.
Trust with Tech 9 is so good. We could just go on forever on talking about your favorite songs, but
yeah, the whole mixtape was a great bag of like all this the different ways he could do music that was crazy good.
Yeah. And then the final question here is, as a therapist, what do you think? This question's a little interesting to read, but I'm going to read it the way I think it's supposed to be said. As a therapist, how do you think NF fans, what do you think NF fans should take away from his music?
As a mental health professional,
yeah,
I think what they need to take, I said it a little bit earlier, was I think they need to take away the reality that everybody's been through stuff, and coming out on the other side healthier is what the goal is. I think NF would say, I want to be able to relate. I want people to be able to relate to what I've been through, so it helps them. Anytime somebody can relate to what you've been through, any tragedy, and if you've had cancer and you meet somebody else who's had cancer, there's an instant bond and a connection. I think what NF is saying, I want people to be able to relate to what I've been through my music, and I want them to use that to make their life better. If all he did was take what he's been through in life, the trauma and the tragedy and the chaos and all that stuff, and let it bring him down, he would be a drug addict on the street, abusing his wife, divorcing his wife, and not seeing his children. So I think he would say, I want you to take the trauma and tragedy you've been through, understand it, pay attention to it, get some help for it, some therapy, and use it to help you be a better father, mother, husband, wife, friend, person. So I think the real message he would want people to have is, number one, be honest about your life. Don't hide things. Don't pretend. But number two, don't let it bring you down. Let it help you become somebody different and better.
Very good. Very insightful there. Yeah. So that's the Q&A portion.
But again, he would be the first to say you got to get help.
It's true. I mean, for him, his music was his therapy. Yeah. I wonder if he did go to like counseling though.
That's what he said in the song.
Did he really?
Remember? Had to see a therapist, and I found out something funny's going on.
But I wonder before that. Like, I wonder when he was dealing with.
I'm sure he's had plenty of therapy. Maybe not all great therapy, especially when you're in the system and like he's got supervised visits. There was therapy involved there. Yeah. But so many child therapists are terrible, and hopefully he didn't have that. Maybe he had a great experience. That's one of the questions I would ask him in his life: is what you've been your experience with therapy? Because I think people can, at least hearing me, Nick. No, not all therapy is good. Like if you've had a bad experience, please don't think that's what it always is. And secondly, please don't feel bad. Sometimes people are not trained well enough to do the job they need to do. And that is wrong. We need to be better at what we do. But he maybe had some really good help. And it helped him get through the attachment issues, the abandonment issues. You talked about that in music, right? Yeah. I've got abandonment issues. So I'm going to push everybody away from me that's getting close. Because I'm afraid, number one, they won't think I'm really good enough if they see what I'm really like. Because if you look at my inside, you're going to not like me. And number two, if you get really close to me, it may be suffocating. I can't take it. So I'm going to push you away and keep you at a distance.
And you're really just saying the whole Nate song right now, aren't you? The powerful lyrics in there. Yeah. So that was the Q&A session. Q&A session? Section, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. Any final thoughts on NF? And then I'm going to ask you a question and to end it.
Nothing other than I can't wait for the next NF music. And you know what's really cool about the next NF music? What? Even though we still have a little more to cover, because we haven't covered everything from NF, this will be kind of one of my first, well, this will be my first time reacting to NF music as it comes out.
Yeah, true.
With everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
I'm late to the game on all of this. You've been up on NF all this time. But in terms of reacting, I've been so behind that I cannot wait for it to be fresh for everybody.
It'll be fun. It's going to be really fun. All right. Now it is time for everybody's favorite.
You were going to ask something, though.
Yeah, I'm going into it. So I've changed the title of this, but just watch.
Inspiration of the podcast.
It's the inspiration. Instead of a quote, it's inspiration now. So what is like an inspiration you have talking about NF and just all that?
Well, I would say this inspiration, and NF would probably break it down a little bit similarly. If you're struggling at all in life, simplify things. So break it down. And I would ask you to look, let's just go a month from now. Like, how do you want to feel a month from now that you don't feel now? And you can write down how you feel now about life. I'm frustrated with my money situation. I'm unhappy or sad with my relationship situation, either being in a bad one or not being in one at all. I'm really feel good about, where I'm at physically or whatever. So just write down what you're happy or not happy about now. And then ask yourself a month from now, where do I want to be that I'm not now? And when you get that answer, don't just go to sleep and not look at it. Like, look at that day after day and say, what do I need to do in order? If I wanted to be able to lose 2 pounds, or I wanted to be able to exercise, or I wanted to be able to save some money, or I wanted to be able to be in a relationship. Well, there are certain things you need to do to get those things. So that's what I'd want you to pay attention to. Sometimes that involves getting help. Sometimes it involves watching podcasts. Sometimes it involves reading books and getting information or getting support groups. But honestly, look at yourself now and what you're happy or not happy about in your life. And look a month from now at what you want to be different than it is today. And work to go achieve those so that when you write this down, today's date, and then a month from now, open that piece of paper back up a month from now and say, did I do what I needed to get to that point?
All right, guys, that was the artist deep dive of NF. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode and what we talked about.
I did.
I did too. I really think y'all would benefit if y'all want to see extra kind of content from this podcast, not from this podcast, but more about NF. We're going to play a fun game on it. And so that'll be really fun. It'll be, on the Patreon right there, as you see, and for YouTube memberships. Mm-hmm. If you want that, it's the bottom level of each of those. So it'd be very beneficial. If you want to see more about NF, it's very easy, simple. And so that will do it.
Go get it.
And we'll see you on the next Reaction Therapy podcast.